The goal of this episode is to put myself out of business. You heard that right. I want to teach you how to put me out of business today. I bet you've never heard such an intro before, have you? Stay tuned. You're going to find out what I mean. What's up, my friend? Welcome to the CBD You podcast. And yes, you means you. And I believe you are here for a reason. I'm Lori, a Christian, a wife, a mama, and a midwife. And to put a little icing on the cake, my husband and I own a hemp farm in Tennessee. Girlfriend, I see it in your eyes and I feel it in the messages you send me. You are tired of waking up every day exhausted with aches and pains that you really thought you were too young for. And with all the stress and anxiety of the day, you're over it. Are you starting to wonder if this is really all life is? I hear you, and you are not alone. God did not design us to just survive. He designed us to thrive. So if you're ready to embrace this beautiful life God has given you by discovering some of His best gifts for His children, rewarm that coffee you forgot about in the microwave, and let's take a minute to pour back into you with a quick chat and some me time. Let's go. To start off today's episode, I'm going to start out a little bit different than I usually do. I want you to hang in there with me though, because this is all going to make sense through the episode as you keep listening. I'm going to start off with some scripture from the book of Ecclesiastes, which is a book of wisdom from Solomon in the Old Testament. I'm going to start in chapter 12. It starts with, "Remember now your Creator in the days of your youth, before the difficult days come, and the years draw near when you say, I have no pleasure in them. While the sun and the light, the moon and the stars are not darkened, and the clouds do not return after the rain, in the day when the keepers of the house tremble, and the strong men bow down, when the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look through the windows grow dim, when the doors are shut in the streets, and the sound of grinding is low, when one rises up at the sound of a bird, and all the daughters of music are brought low. Also they are afraid of height, and of terrors in the way. When the almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper is a burden, and desire fails. For man goes to his eternal home, and the mourners go about in the streets. Remember your Creator before the silver cord is loosed, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher shattered at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the well. Then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. Vanity of vanity, says the preacher, all is vanity." If you haven't studied this passage of scripture before, I'm going to give you a little insight. Back in verse 3, when it talks about the keepers of the house tremble, that's talking about your arms, when your arms aren't strong anymore. The next line, "and the strong men bow down," your back isn't strong. When the grinders cease because they are few, it's talking about your teeth and how they tend to fall out or break and you have issues with them. Next line, "and those that look through the windows grow dim." That's talking about your eyes. A little bit further, "and the sound of grinding is low." Your hearing, you can't hear very well. When one rises up at the sound of a bird, you can't sleep. "And all the daughters of music are brought low." Your voice is weak and puny. The next verse, also they are afraid of height and afraid of terrors in the way. You're afraid of the things you didn't used to be afraid of. Next line, when it says the almond tree blossoms, it's talking about your hair turning gray and white. A little further down, when it talks about the wheel broken at the well, it's referring to your circulation and of your lungs and your heart. This whole passage is about the things that tend to happen to your body as you age. And Solomon is reminding us to remember our Creator. One of the best ways to remember your Creator is to look to the wonderful things He has given you and the knowledge and the wisdom He has given you in order to take care of the body He has given you. Now, I'm not old. I'm 41 years old as I record this. As I record this, my dad is laying in a hospital bed with his nth back surgery, stemming from a previous one that kind of fell apart, mixed with a new injury, stemming from an on-the-job injury way back when I was a teenager. So that's, 24 5-ish years ago. Even though it's been that long, the sequela of all of that happening is still playing out. The other night, my husband was laying in the bed, not moving, not doing anything, and he said his shoulder hurt. Well, I assumed that he had done something throughout the day that he'd, maybe tweaked it a little bit. Nope. He made reference again, as he has many times, to an injury from doing something dumb back in his 20s. If you know him, you can ask him about it. I'm not going to go into it because I can't tell the story as good as he can, but it was just a dumb kid thing you do, thinking it was no big deal. And he messed up his shoulder, ended up with surgery, and now can't really do much of anything that you would want to do with your kids, like throwing a baseball, shooting basketball, things like that, because his shoulder is so messed up. Last week, my ankles hurt for no reason when I was working out in the garden. I kept feeling these weird pops and rubs and stuff because back in high school, I played basketball and I sprained my ankles so severely so many times that the ligaments in my ankles are like stretched out rubber bands and there's pretty much no support in there. I heard somebody say in the last couple of weeks that if they'd known they would live as long as they have, they would have taken better care of themselves. I love remedies like CBD. I love herbal remedies and homeopathy and all those kind of things. But what I would love more is for you to never need them. Now, I know many of you want so badly for your kids to do better and to learn from your mistakes. We all want that. We want our kids to hear what we're telling them and not repeat the same things that we've done. I know a lot of you that are listening are maybe a little bit older, maybe not a young parent, and so maybe your kids are getting old enough to where they're making their own decisions. They're probably out on their own. And many of them don't really want your advice. I don't know why that is, but we all know it's true. So since a lot of your kids aren't willing to listen to you, they kind of push back when you give them advice, I wanted to record this episode for them to hear this from someone else. If you're new here, I'm Lori, and I'm a certified nurse midwife with a master's degree and over 20 years of experience in healthcare. Now, that doesn't have a whole lot to do with this particular podcast, CBD You. I don't need that education necessarily to share with you what I know about CBD, but the reason I put that here is to qualify that I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, and I hope that you'll listen. If you found this on your own, that is great, and I am talking to you today. If a family member asks you to listen to this, that's great too, and thank you for trusting them. They love you, and they want the best for you, or they wouldn't have told you about this. I want to talk to you today about how to never need what my farm sells. You heard that right. As I told you in the introduction, I am going to teach you today ways that you can put me out of business. I would rather you never need what I am offering because you have lived in such a healthy way and you've cared for the body that God gave you in such a great way that you don't need any remedies. The good news is if you're in optimal health and you take good care of yourself, your body's endocannabinoid system will function well on its own to provide you the balance that you need and to help you bounce back from the stressors of life without having to take something like CBD oil. And if you need a refresher about what the endocannabinoid system is, be sure to go back to episode 8 where I explain it to you, what that system is and how it works and what its purpose is. I'm not going to go into that today, but you're welcome to go back and listen to that episode and learn all about it. Today, I want to go through 5 different things that will help you not need products like CBD. Number 1 is going to encompass all the others, but it's just going to be a little bit general to get started. And it is so obvious, and you know this, but sometimes you just need to hear it. Take care of your body. You don't know how long you're going to live. You may be here till you're 100. If your body is in good shape, you will enjoy those latter years so much more than if you are in pain and you're miserable. As a young person, do not think that you are invincible. Real things can happen to you that can impact you for a lifetime. Injuries do heal. Our body tends to regenerate itself, but it doesn't heal the same always. And not everything can heal itself. Things like if you knock a tooth out, it's gone and it's not going to grow back. keep in mind that not everything can be fixed. Eat healthy. Eat whole, real foods that God gave us as close to the source as possible. That means with it as little or no processing as you can possibly do, because every step of processing removes some element of nutrition that your body needs. You will pay for the bad decisions you make now eventually. You may not feel it for a few years, but you will pay, whether it be in health problems, maybe weight issues, or other things. Take the time and the effort and maybe the little bit extra money while you're young and have it to make good choices. You are what you eat. You remember that when you're in elementary school and you would make fun of people or people would make fun of you and they'd say, you are what you eat? That is the truth, because every cell in your body draws what it needs from the food that you put in your mouth. And so really, technically speaking, you literally become the things that you eat. So are you giving your body good fuel that's going to make your body healthy and strong? Or are you eating junk that's going to make your body junk? One more little point on this. Dumb injuries linger. That refers back to the issue that my husband deals with his shoulder. He will tell you that that moment was a very, very dumb moment. He has told our kids about it many times to try to get them to understand that not everything goes back to normal. Now, of course, they roll their eyes and think that it won't ever happen to them, but we do try to get the message across, and I want to get that message across to you today. Don't do dumb stuff. You'll pay for it, okay? Now, since we've covered that general overall body health section, I want to move into the 4 big things that people tend to use CBD for, and I'm going to address ways that you can keep from needing CBD for those things when you get older. The first one I'm going to talk about is anxiety. I firmly believe that a lot of the problems that the people in our country are experiencing with anxiety arise from external sources that could be fixed. We tend to think that something's just wrong with us. And sometimes that is the case. Sometimes there's chemically something wrong. But so much of the anxiety that we deal with, especially moms, comes from things like social media. And I know you've heard that before and you're probably rolling your eyes at me, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. But we are comparing ourselves to a snapshot of someone's best time of their best day and thinking that that is their all day, every day. And we all know that it isn't. But when that's all you see, it's very hard to remember that they get up and look like garbage too, just like we all do, that they had to put a lot of work in before they did their one little selfie snapshot to put on Facebook with their clean counters behind them. Meanwhile, just off camera, there's a pile of junk piled up that you can't see because they pushed it out of the way. And so meanwhile, you start thinking that your house isn't good enough and that you're not good enough. And you put unrealistic expectations on yourself that no one can meet. And that causes anxiety. In addition, there's all kinds of bad, awful things we see on the news that maybe they're more frequent, the bad things that happen, or maybe it's just that we have a media that thrives on feeding that part of our society's consciousness. They get more viewership when they keep this stuff stirred up. And so it makes it seem like that there's, so many terrible things that you need to worry about. And don't get me wrong, I know there's a lot of bad stuff going on. But the anxiety that we're carrying is not what God intended us to ever have. He tells us not to worry about anything, but to cast all our anxieties and all our cares on Him. That includes pretty much everything. So we need to remember that we can make choices with our lives that will keep us in a healthy mind space so that we don't have these unrealistic expectations that cause us anxiety that then lead us to needing medication or CBD or whatever. I know we live in a world that is, technology driven, and it seems like everything you need to do is tied to your phone. But that's really unfortunate because with that phone comes so many things that are addictive and that cause us anxieties that we didn't used to have. Just remember that People didn't used to deal with the things we're dealing with because they didn't have this constant 24/7 bombardment of expectations. Turn it off. Get outside. Get back to God's creation. Look at the beauty around you and realize that that is where health comes from, not from this other junk. So put that stuff behind you, and then you won't have this growing anxiety of all the things that you don't have that then make you so stressed and so anxious that you have to turn to remedies. The next thing I've touched on a lot already, but pain. Pain is obviously one of the things that people use CBD for a lot, but so much of our pain comes from sports. Maybe when we were kids, we all get into sports, and I'm not knocking sports. I played all of them. Well, maybe not all of them. If you're listening to this and you know me, you know I didn't play soccer. I hate soccer. Hate me if you want to. I can handle it. But I played basketball, I played softball, I played volleyball, and I played golf. I think that's the main 4 that I played while I was in school. And I had the injuries and the surgeries and all the things to show for it. So while it was a lot of fun and I learned a lot and it made me healthier in some ways, I'm paying for some of those injuries now in my 40s. And I know that a lot of those problems will probably get worse as my joints get older. So we really have to think about what price are we paying for these activities that we're involving ourselves in. And then also the dumb decisions that I mentioned before, the injuries that come as a result of just doing stupid stuff. And then they hurt for years and years and years and years. Again, my husband's still having pain 20 some odd years later after one dumb night. It's a shame. Realize if you're listening to this and you are a young person that you can make good choices and prevent having lifelong pain as a result. All right, moving on to sleep. Quit abusing your body. This, again, we're going to talk about the phones a little bit. Go to bed. Just go to bed. And by the way, I say that I'm recording this and it's almost midnight. I should be in bed too. But when you have little kids and you're trying to record things in silence, you have to do it when they're asleep, right? But seriously, turn your phone off. Get off of social media. Turn off the videos. You're not missing anything. I promise that your life won't be more empty because of those minutes that you miss being on your phone, because you're going to get paid back in dividends in your health. Our minds, our sleep centers of our brains are getting so, this is not a good medical term, but so messed up from how we are treating our bodies. We're also very sedentary, and I know many of you know that, but when you sit around all day and you're not active, it's a lot harder to sleep because your body's not at the point of needing that kind of sleep. So try to be more active. Try to get up and do things that will keep your blood pumping and keep you healthy so that then at bedtime you're ready to sleep. And also, if at all possible, maintain normal sleep cycles. It's called a circadian rhythm. And so that means basically you're awake during the day and you sleep at night, and you're having regular bedtimes and regular wake times. And so your body is very much in sync. Man, I'm stumbling all over my words, but it's very much in sync with what is normal for a human to do. Now, if you're working night shift and things like that, I know that's very difficult. But I'll also say that there's some long-term effects of that we're now finding in research, that we're paying dividends. Again, we're paying with all kinds of health issues that maybe we wouldn't have had if our bodies had been a little normal. And I know, again, that's hard, especially for nurses and things like that. Hospitals don't close at night. Patients don't go home at night. They need someone to take care of them. And it's a sacrifice that some of us make to provide the care that people need. But if you have the luxury of having a normal sleep-wake cycle, don't abuse it. Don't abuse your body, so that when you get older, you are able to sleep, because you probably know someone who is older who doesn't sleep much at all. They pretty much can't sleep without medications or some sort of supplement, and it's a miserable place to be, and I don't want you to be there. Lastly, let's talk about inflammation. The root of so many ailments we deal with is actually inflammation. whether it's coming from our foods or our environmental exposures, the things that we're being exposed to throughout the day. Our bodies are dealing with levels of inflammation that is not healthy. One of the best things that you can do to prevent this type of inflammation, or really any type of inflammation, is to get all the processed stuff out and only eat whole, real foods. And when I say whole foods, I mean a food that has not been processed and had things taken out of it to where it's not as it grew, whether that be meat or vegetables or whatever the thing is, and eat it as close to the source as you can. Because if you eat something that was grown in California and you live in Virginia, that thing was picked in California weeks before it got to you in Virginia, which means it was not picked at the peak of its ripeness, which means that its vitamins and minerals that are intended to be there at the time of consumption haven't developed fully yet. So even though you're eating vegetables and you feel like you're doing the right thing, you're not getting what you need from your foods when you're getting things shipped so far away. This is where finding a farmer near you comes in that has some sort of a market to where you can get foods that are native to your area as fresh as possible. Or better yet, to put checks in several of the boxes we've talked about so far, have your own garden. Then you're getting the food as fresh as you possibly can get it, and you're getting the activity. You're getting outside, which helps with all the anxieties that life brings. Many studies have shown just being outside in the sun helps that. And you're going to be worn out, so you'll sleep better. So just that one thing. Yeah, go plant a garden. I didn't even have that written in my outline. Go plant a garden. I just solved all your problems. You're welcome. Anyway, I know I'm being silly, but that's the truth. Your food matters so much more than you probably realize, especially in your younger years. It's something you just don't even think about. You go grab whatever's easy, but don't do that. Spend the time to put good fuel in your tank so that you don't have the inflammation that causes so many illnesses, including the discomfort of pain. This one's not going to be very popular with some of you, but stop drinking. That's not good for your body, and it can lead to inflammation. Stop using drugs. Stop using tobacco products. Stop using anti-inflammatories at every turn for every little ache and pain. Those things kill your gut. They tear it up. And then you have inflammatory issues that arise from the damage that you've done to your gut. Stop assaulting your gut. Stop eating things that aren't organic, that are doused and covered in chemicals that, again, destroy your gut lining and cause something called leaky gut, which then leads to inflammation, allergic reactions, and so many other things. Many more that will fit in the scope of this episode. These things seem silly. They seem like something that you're just like, this lady's crazy. No, I'm serious. If you're listening to this and you are young and you are not having health problems yet, you have time to fix these things now. And I would encourage you to make good choices so that you don't ever have to come see me and start asking me about how CBD could help you. You will have a healthy, functioning immune system, and you will have a healthy, functioning endocannabinoid system, and you won't need me. And that will make me happier than you can imagine. I would love in 10 years, 20 years, for somebody to meet me and say, I heard an episode that you did years ago about how to not ever need you. And I made those changes that day, and I don't need you. And I will say, that is awesome. It is great to know you, and I am glad you don't need me. I would love for our country to be so healthy that products like CBD there's no need for them anymore. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get there, judging by what I see in most people's health practices. But if I can change just for you that's listening to me right now, if I can make a difference for you, that's okay. I know I can't change everybody, and that's okay. But today, for some reason, you happened upon this episode, and I hope that it will lead you to make some different decisions. But yeah, I get it. Most that are listening to me are screaming at their phone, it's too late for me. I'm 50, I'm 60. I did dumb things when I was a kid. I didn't take the time to take care of my body. I didn't know I was going to live this long, and I'm miserable. And I'm sorry to hear that. I know that that's what many of you are going through. But the good news is it's really not too late. With our CBD, you can get the boost to your endocannabinoid system that you're going to need to regain that balance and to find relief from these ailments. So if you're one of those people that's screaming at your phone that it's too late for you, I want you to stop right now and head over to bit.ly/CBD and You show. It's going to take you straight to the cart page. That might be a little confusing, but that just shows you that they've already put the code in your cart so that you're going to get your 20% off of anything you put in your cart. So once you go to that link, you're in the cart, click return to shop. That's going to take you to the shopping page, and you'll be able to pick out your oil or your topical products or whatever you would like to try. You're going to get 20% off of anything that you put in your cart in that one order. And it's only a one-time thing, so make sure you get everything you want and give everything a try so that you can then have that balance that maybe you lost through making decisions maybe that weren't the best. But once you know better, you do better. So it's never too late to start making better choices. If you're on the older end of the spectrum, or maybe even the younger end of the spectrum, but you're already dealing with some of these issues, go back, take some notes, write down some of the things that I suggested. Do those things to start working towards health in other areas. But then go ahead and head over to bit.ly/CBD and You show and take advantage of that sale. Again, bit.ly/CBDANDYOU show all together, and you'll get 20% off of everything you want from us here at Alara Ridge Farm. And if this is your first time listening and you don't know who we are or who I am and you want to learn more about us, head over, instead of going to that link that I gave you a second ago, go to alararidgefarm.com. That's ALARARIDGEFARM.com. And you can learn all about us. And then from there, jump over into the shop if you're interested. If you have questions, there's a link down in the show notes with my email address. So feel free to shoot me questions. Also, if there's a show episode that you would like to hear, that you have a question that you'd like to hear me address in a future podcast episode, go to that speakpipe.com/CBD and You link that's down in the show notes. I believe it's number 2 down there. And leave me a voicemail and let me know what you'd like to hear about in a future episode. I'm so glad you joined me today, and I can't wait to talk to you again right here next week. Whoa, wait, stop. I need your help. Before you take off, if this podcast has blessed you in any way, or if you learned something, could you take 1 minute and leave me a written review over on Apple Podcasts? That's the absolute best way you can thank me. I love hearing how what I've learned on my journey has helped you on yours. Remember that the word says every good gift and every perfect gift is from above. CBD is one of them, but there are so many more. Cling to him and you will never go wrong. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you back here in a few days.